I'm Lee Benz, the Homescholar, and I got a question from Sarah in Washington who was asking, how do I get a diploma or a GED? And that was an interesting question, and I sometimes do get that from parents of middle school students and younger. And I'll give you the answer in a minute, but I will say that it probably does not boil down to either a diploma or a GED. It probably boils down to a transcript, because what you really need in life is a high school transcript, because that will demonstrate the education that your child has. It's what's behind the diploma or the GED, all right? So really, I think your question, Sarah, would be answered by creating a high school transcript, and I think that's the answer. So if you need help with that, then look at my total transcript solution, and that will help you to make your transcript. But let me just explain briefly about a diploma. A diploma is a piece of paper that says that your child has graduated high school. Now, pretty much anybody can print off that piece of paper, and you do want to have that as a homeschool parent, because when your child has graduated, you want them to, anytime they're asked a question, are you a high school graduate, you want them to say, yes, I am a high school graduate. Or if they're asked, do you have a high school diploma? You want them to immediately, without thinking it through, say, yes, I have a high school diploma. And for that reason, I do recommend that homeschoolers, when their children graduate, that they do give them a diploma. And I recommend that you go to homeschooldiploma.com. They're great people. They will help you to make your diploma. They're beautiful. They're lovely. They are, however, pieces of paper, and they aren't the education of your child. The actual education of your child is what is translated into your transcript, which will say not just have I graduated, but I have graduated, and here are the core classes that I've covered, and this is how much math and this is how much history, and I've met the graduation requirements. Okay. The other thing in your question was about the GED. Now, the GED is a test that was developed for high school students who have dropped out of high school. And there are some times when it may be required of some people, maybe for military or whatever, but it still sort of has that stigma behind it of the only reason people would take a GED is because they have dropped out of high school. And I don't really encourage homeschoolers to be putting themselves into that bucket with dropouts, right? I just think that it's sort of a negative reputation to have. Now, if your child has their number one college, and their number one college says no matter what you did homeschooling, you have to take the GED. If they require that, that's your number one college, you know, maybe that's a decision that you're going to make. But that so rarely happens. And for 99% of homeschoolers, they will not be asked to take the GED. And the GED can, again, have that stigma that you have somehow dropped out. Now, if you have a much older child, sometimes people will contact me and they'll say, you know, my child really hasn't been homeschooled for 3 years. In those sorts of situations, then maybe a GED would be appropriate, because they did basically drop out even though you were homeschooling. So there's definitely times when that's going to come into play, so rarely. So basically, Sarah, my advice is that you not worry too much about the diploma. You can purchase that from homeschooldiploma.com. Don't worry about the GED. Very, very few colleges are going to ask you for it. It does have that stigma of being a dropout. And what's really going to be important is that you educate your children and that you put the education of your children onto a high school transcript, because it's your homeschool high school transcript that's going to be shown to the colleges. It's that transcript that you're going to need for anything, any situation that comes up in the future. And so not worry about those other two things. I hope that helps.